We are not done and that Combs did not do this alone. Do you foresee that there could be other charges related to this case?
I'm not taking anything off the table.
Did you ever spend time with the guy? Did you ever meet Diddy?
I've met him before, yeah.
How was he?
Very nice guy, very smart, super business. You know, I mean, he's very successful.
The room fell silent as Janice Combs, the 84-year-old mother of Sean Diddy Combs, stepped forward to take the stand. The tension in the courtroom was palpable. You could hear the faint rustle of papers and the muffled shuffles of uneasy onlookers. All eyes were on Janice, the woman who had stood by her son through every triumph and tragedy, a figure often seen as his unwavering protector. But today, she wasn't here to defend him. She was here to speak against him. The betrayal was staggering, like a dagger straight to the heart of the man who built his empire on loyalty and control. For a moment, Diddy sat frozen, his expression carefully neutral, but the flicker of panic in his eyes betrayed him. Even behind his polished exterior, he must have known that what was coming next could destroy the very foundation of his carefully curated public image.
I thought Diddy would be throwing all his celebrity mates under the bus.
I mean, that could potentially be coming when it's time for court and when it's time for him to testify. But what we're seeing right now is how important public relations really are to Sean Combs. He's desperately trying to control the narrative behind bars, allowing his attorneys to do documentaries.
As Janice began to speak, her voice steady yet heavy with emotion, the courtroom felt as though it had shrunk. "I never thought I'd be standing here," she began, her words slicing through the tension like a blade. "But there comes a time when the truth must come out, no matter how painful it is." Gasps rippled through the crowd as her words hung in the air. What makes a mother turn against her own child? That question lingered like a dark cloud, unspoken yet undeniable. For decades, Janice had been Diddy's steadfast ally, his confidant, the woman who had fiercely defended him against every accusation. So why now? Why this? She didn't waste time with pleasantries or vague accusations. Her testimony dove straight into the heart of the matter. Janice described private conversations with her son that painted a chilling portrait of a man who had long since blurred the lines between ambition and exploitation. "He told me once," she said, pausing to collect herself, "that sometimes people have to get hurt for business to thrive." He said it so casually, like it was nothing. The courtroom erupted in murmurs, the weight of her words settling like a lead blanket over the crowd. Diddy, who had been staring intently at his mother, shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his jaw tightening. This was no longer just a legal battle. It was personal and it was devastating. The most shocking moment came when Janice alluded to what the media has whispered about for years, the alleged blackmail archive. She claimed that hidden documents and videos, reportedly uncovered during federal raids, revealed the true scope of Diddy's empire of manipulation. "I think he kept those things to control people," Janice said, her voice trembling slightly. "He had a way of making sure no one could ever cross him." The implications were staggering. Was this the breaking point for Janice? Did she finally realize the full extent of her son's actions? Or was she, herself, being forced to testify, perhaps by those very incriminating materials? It was impossible to know, but the tension in the room was unbearable.
That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Get punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man. So I believe that's a big problem with a lot of the actors out there because they get fluid. And next thing you know, once you go fluid, you...
And then came the allegations tied to Diddy's infamous freak-off parties. Those extravagant, secretive gatherings that had become the stuff of legend and horror in equal measure. Janice described moments that at the time she had brushed off as eccentricities of the celebrity lifestyle. She mentioned disoriented women wandering through his homes in areas that were strictly off-limits to anyone outside Diddy's inner circle. Janice admitted that she didn't want to believe it and told herself it was just part of the industry. However, deep down, she knew something wasn't right. The courtroom sat in stunned silence as she recounted these memories, the weight of her words pressing down on everyone present. Could it be that Janice had stayed silent for so long out of a mother's love? Or had she been complicit, turning a blind eye to the darker side of her son's empire? These questions hung in the air unanswered as her testimony unfolded. What was clear, however, was that her silence had now been irrevocably shattered, and with it, the carefully controlled narrative of Sean Diddy Combs was unraveling at an alarming pace.
In her civil lawsuit, Cassie said that she was the victim of abuse, assault, and at the hands of Diddy.
The rumors about the blackmail archive weren't new, but hearing them tied to Janice's testimony gave them a chilling credibility. For years, whispers of secret recordings, incriminating photos, and confidential documents had swirled around Diddy's name. Some claimed these materials were the source of his untouchable status in the industry, a way to keep rivals and associates in check. But now, with federal prosecutors reportedly in possession of these materials, the question wasn't just whether they existed, it was what they could reveal. Could they contain evidence of the coercion and exploitation that so many had accused him of? Or worse, could they expose even darker secrets that no one dared to imagine? And then there was the matter of Diddy's infamous parties, the ones that had been described in hushed tones by former attendees and alleged victims alike. Janice's testimony hinted at a level of depravity that went far beyond the glitz and glamour of Hollywood excess. She described the strange, secretive nature of these gatherings, the way certain rooms were cordoned off and guarded, the way certain guests seemed more like props than participants. "I saw things," she said, her voice breaking slightly, "things I wish I hadn't." The courtroom was silent, the weight of her words hanging heavy in the air. What had she seen, and why had she stayed silent for so long?
Did you ever have the opportunity where you got invited and you said no to it?
Hell yeah.
What was the
Hell
consequences
yeah.
when you said no?
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking at it.
Janice's decision to speak out now raised as many questions as it answered. Was she finally breaking free from years of denial and complicity? Or was she being coerced into testifying, perhaps by the very federal agents who were building their case against her son? The truth was murky, and the stakes couldn't be higher. As the testimony continued, it became clear that this was just the beginning. What other secrets did Janice know, and how far would she go to reveal them? The courtroom buzzed with anticipation and unease, every word from Janice's mouth adding another layer to the tangled web of accusations surrounding Diddy. And as we sat there, watching this once unbreakable bond between mother and son crumble, before our eyes, one thing became painfully clear. This was far from over. The revelations had only just begun.
Now you know to be hands-off with somebody. A number of producers come in to make the approach, and you threaten to punch them in the mouth, or threaten to knock their head off for talking to you or looking at you like you're a woman. When you approach a real man about his masculinity, you're going to get a real reaction back. It's a difference when a guy walks in a room and when a man walks into a room. And a man don't take the same things that a guy will accept.
But if Janice's words shook the courtroom, it was the fallout outside those walls that sent shockwaves through the industry. Her testimony wasn't just a betrayal of her son. It was the spark that could ignite the collapse of the entire Combs family legacy. If Janice, the matriarch who had always been seen as the glue holding things together, was now exposing Diddy's alleged dark side, what did that mean for her own role in his empire? Could it be that she wasn't just a passive observer, but an active participant in the rise of bad boy entertainment? That's exactly what Kirk Burroughs, Diddy's former business partner, has claimed. Burroughs, once a co-founder of Bad Boy, has filed a lawsuit alleging that Janice herself played a pivotal role in forcing him out of the company, and not through polite boardroom negotiations. According to Burroughs, a violent confrontation involving Diddy and a baseball bat left him with no choice but to sign over his 25% stake in the label. And who ended up benefiting from that stake? None other than Janice Combs. Burroughs alleges that, while she wasn't physically present during the altercation, she orchestrated it from behind the scenes, ensuring that her son consolidated power while she quietly reaped the rewards. If true, this paints a damning picture of the Combs family, not as victims of a corrupt industry, but as architects of their own ruthless, power-hungry dynasty.
Look at Diddy, for instance. Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at him. Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at. He has videos. He has videos of the parties. Now, what I've heard, which I don't know how much of it is in mainstream media, I don't really follow the story that much, but what I've heard from friends that are attorneys, friends of mine that have represented me before, agents and so on, is there's a bidding war going on.
And let's not forget, this isn't the first time Janice's name has been dragged into the shadows of Diddy's controversies. Over the years, rumors have swirled about her involvement in some of his more questionable business practices. Did she turn a blind eye to the alleged exploitation and intimidation that fueled Bad Boy's success? Or worse, did she actively enable it? Her testimony against her son raises a chilling possibility that she's now trying to distance herself from the empire she helped build, throwing Diddy under the bus to save herself as federal investigations close in. Could Janice's courtroom revelations be part of a calculated move to protect her own legacy and her freedom?
To not be involved, a famous singer, to not come out, here's the price. And that they're just selling to the individuals that are in those. This is what I heard. They're selling those videos. So if you're Tommy X And Tommy X is a big, big movie star. And he was at some of the Diddy parties. He was in one of those bedrooms with 3 other men, and he's happily married to a woman, and blah. Tommy doesn't want that video to come out.
And then there's the mystery of victim 3, the witness whose disappearance has sent the internet into a frenzy of speculation. This individual was supposed to be a key piece of the prosecution's case against Diddy, someone who could allegedly testify to years of abuse and coercion. But now, she's gone. Prosecutors have admitted they can't locate her, and even her lawyer has gone silent. Is this just an unfortunate coincidence? Or could it be something far more sinister? We can't help but wonder, did Diddy's alleged blackmail tactics extend to silencing witnesses? The idea isn't far-fetched, especially when you consider the whispers of a shadow network behind his empire, a system of control where loyalty was enforced not by trust, but by fear. For years, insiders have hinted at the existence of this shadow network, a labyrinth of enforcers, surveillance, and secret recordings designed to keep everyone in line. It's said that Diddy didn't just rise to power through talent and ambition. He allegedly kept people close until they were no longer useful, and then used whatever leverage he had to ensure their silence. Could victim 3 have been the latest casualty of this system? And if so, what does that mean for the other witnesses set to testify? The tension is palpable, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Every disappearance, every unreturned phone call, every cryptic rumor only adds to the sense that there's far more to this story than we've been told.
Jurors heard testimony from a key prosecution witness in Sean Diddy Combs' federal trial in New York City Tuesday. His ex-girlfriend and singer Cassie Ventura spoke about her 10-year relationship with Combs and the psychological, physical, and abuse she says she endured. Ventura first leveled accusations against Combs in a 2023 lawsuit, which was settled a day later. Dozens of men and women have filed suits against him since 2020.
The list of lawsuits against Diddy is staggering, painting an increasingly complex and sinister picture of his alleged abuses of power. One of the most chilling accusations comes from a former videographer who claims he was coerced into filming compromising footage at parties and private events. According to court filings, this individual alleges that his role went far beyond simple documentation. It was about capturing moments that could later be used as leverage. These tapes, which reportedly contain explicit and incriminating material, are rumored to be part of the so-called blackmail archive that has haunted Diddy's career. What's even more unsettling is the claim that many of these recordings were made without the participants' knowledge, raising serious ethical and legal questions about consent and exploitation. Many of the lawsuits also highlight the disturbing power dynamics at play in Diddy's world. Several women have stepped forward claiming they were invited to exclusive gatherings under the guise of professional opportunities, only to find themselves in situations they described as coercive and degrading. One accuser, who has remained anonymous, filed a lawsuit detailing how she was allegedly flown to a private island for what she thought was a networking event. Instead, she claims she was subjected to days of psychological manipulation and physical intimidation. These accounts echo the chilling descriptions of the infamous freak-off parties, where power, control, and fear seem to have been the currency of choice.
You know, attorneys say that this is the first time that they've met since 2018 when she attended the funeral for Kim Porter, which is the mother of Sean Combs' 3 children. So to watch Sean Combs watching her was really interesting because they haven't seen each other in at least 6 years. But he can't say anything. You know, this is a moment for him where he has to be silent. And right now we're hearing what she says in terms of what happened during the course of their over 10-year relationship.
But it's not just the victims who are speaking out. Former employees have also come forward with allegations that paint a picture of a toxic and dangerous environment behind the scenes at Bad Boy Entertainment. One former bodyguard claims he was ordered to enforce Diddy's rules with an iron fist, ensuring that those around him stayed loyal or stayed silent. He alleges that employees who dared to question Diddy's methods were swiftly dealt with, sometimes through professional sabotage and other times through outright threats. These claims add yet another layer to the growing narrative of a man who allegedly used his wealth and influence not just to build his empire, but to protect it at all costs. And then there's the case of Kirk Burroughs, which further complicates things. His accusations of being forced out of Bad Boy Entertainment under duress aren't just a legal matter. They're a damning indictment of how business was allegedly conducted within the Combs empire. Burroughs claims that his attempts to reclaim his stake in the company over the years were met with legal roadblocks and intimidation tactics, leaving him financially destitute. It's worth noting that Burroughs was once considered family. He's even the godfather to Diddy's son, Justin. This betrayal adds a deeply personal element to the case, suggesting that no one in Diddy's inner circle was truly safe from his alleged schemes.
And again, just to reiterate what is a freak-off, the freak-off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch her have sex with someone else. And she said that she did it because she was 22, 21, she was young, she didn't know any better, and that she wanted to please Sean Combs.
The lawsuit filed by Cassie Ventura, though quickly settled, remains one of the most explosive. While the specifics of the settlement are shrouded in secrecy, the allegations she made before it was resolved continue to cast a long shadow. Her claims of being controlled, manipulated, and subjected to years of psychological and physical harm have become a rallying cry for others who say they experienced similar treatment. It's no coincidence that her lawsuit sparked a wave of additional accusations, with many citing her bravery as the reason they finally decided to come forward. The ripple effect of her case cannot be overstated. It has become a turning point in the public's perception of Diddy and his legacy.
I'll tell you, I don't know how much, I don't like to say things that I know unless I see it. That there's a little difference, you know. But was it discussed? Was there descriptions from people I know that were at those? Yes, but here's another thing. So how many of these big entertainment parties and over the years and everything, with as successful as you are, have you been around? Does anyone ever come up to you at a certain hour and say, okay, it's time to go? At those parties, they did.
And let's not forget the federal investigation which looms large over all of this. Prosecutors have made it clear that they are building a case not just against Diddy, but against the entire infrastructure that allowed his alleged behavior to go unchecked for so long. The raids on his properties earlier this year reportedly uncovered a treasure trove of evidence, including documents, recordings, and other materials that could prove critical in court. While much of this evidence remains under seal, insiders suggest that it paints a damning picture of a man who allegedly weaponized his wealth and influence to protect himself and silence others. The question now is whether this mountain of evidence will finally bring Diddy's empire crashing down.
What I thought was also interesting is she said that after that first freak off, she said she felt dirty. She didn't want to do it. And when she brought up the idea of having a conversation about the freak offs in an email, which the jurors saw, she said she backpedaled in the email because Combs responded by saying, I know, you don't want to do it. And she said, oh no, well, it's not that. But that was the beginning. That was in
And let's not forget the most tantalizing rumor of all, Cassie's secret diary. Over the years, Cassie Ventura's name has become almost synonymous with Diddy's alleged excesses and abuses. Her 2023 lawsuit, which was quietly settled just a day after it was filed, painted a harrowing picture of life inside Diddy's orbit. But what if that lawsuit was just the tip of the iceberg? Some sources claim that Cassie kept a detailed journal during her years with Diddy, a document that reportedly contains explosive revelations about his private life, his business dealings, and even his alleged freak-off parties. If this diary exists, and if its contents ever come to light, it could be the final nail in the coffin for Diddy's crumbling empire. Could Janice be afraid of what's in that diary? After all, her testimony didn't just expose Diddy, it also opened a door for more insiders to come forward. If Cassie's journal were to surface, it might reveal secrets that even Janice doesn't want to face. Was this why she chose to speak out now, aligning herself with the prosecution in a desperate attempt to get ahead of whatever might come next? It's a chilling thought, but one that feels increasingly plausible as the layers of this scandal continue to peel back. Meanwhile, back in the courtroom, the atmosphere is electric. Diddy sits at the defense table, his usually confident demeanor replaced by a pale, shaken expression. He's used to being in control, but Janice's testimony has left him reeling. Every word she speaks feels like another blow, not just to his case, but to the carefully constructed image he's spent decades building. The man who once seemed untouchable, who ruled the music industry with an iron grip, now looks like he's on the verge of losing everything.
I've lost businesses because I don't bend over in that way. I don't compromise. I don't play roles. I don't kiss a man. I don't do that because the man card means everything.
And yet, the fallout from Janice's revelations is far from over. Her words have set off a chain reaction, emboldening others to come forward with their own stories. Rumors are swirling that more victims and former associates are preparing to speak out, each with their own pieces of the puzzle that could expose the full extent of Diddy's alleged empire of fear. If what we've heard so far is just the beginning, we can only imagine what other secrets are waiting to be uncovered. What else has been hidden in the shadows of Diddy's world, and who will be brave enough to bring it to light? But here's the real question. Is this the end for Sean Diddy Combs? Or is it just the beginning of an even darker chapter? With every revelation, the walls seem to be closing in, not just on Diddy, but on everyone who's ever been a part of his empire. And as the world watches this scandal unfold, one thing is clear. The truth, whatever it may be, is far more shocking than we ever imagined. What do you think will happen next? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates as this story continues to unravel. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and remember, nothing stays hidden forever.